Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Hannigan, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the death penalty and why I think the United States should abolish it. So, I want to ask you a question. Do you trust the government to enforce the ultimate penalty on its citizens? Do you think that the government can be trusted with that power to end someone's life? And in my opinion, the obvious answer is no. We cannot trust our government to do that. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about a recent case, actually, where Marcellus Williams, individual, was executed in Missouri against the wishes of the victim's family and the prosecutor's office that had convicted him many years ago. And despite these facts, this man was still executed. So we'll learn a little bit more about this one particular case where there is a lot of question marks around the execution. And there obviously are countless other cases where individuals might be innocent and they're put to death. So when a society has a death penalty and a government implements this penalty, it really reflects on all of this society and the values that the society holds. How do they value life? And in many cases, in most cases, modern societies have decided the death penalty is not something that they support anymore and is not at peace with how they feel they should be living in their society. And the United States still remains one of the countries that continues to have this outdated punishment. So, my main point is that the death penalty is ineffective, biased, outdated, and should be abolished immediately in favor of more humane and just alternatives. Some of the things I'm going to be going over are the flaws and risks of our justice system. That includes the economic and racial disparities and the financial inefficiencies and global trends towards abolishing the death penalty. So, first, we'll start with our justice system. And our justice system, like any human system made of humans, is flawed and fallible. And human error and bad actors leads to wrongful convictions. And this is highlighted by nearly 200 exonerations since the 70s on death row cases. These are 200 individuals that the government would have put to death that were proven to be innocent. And to me, when an innocent person is put to death, that is a murder, whether it's done by the government or by a citizen. So there's many different factors that go into these cases, and there could be inadequate defense, false confessions, eyewitnesses making mistakes that all contribute to these wrongful convictions. But once the ultimate um, punishment is doled out, there is no going back. So it doesn't matter if new evidence comes to light. It there is nothing we can do at the point where the execution has already taken place. So one of the questions that we need to think about is not just do we think that the death penalty should be doled out for certain crimes, is do we trust our government with that power to execute people? So there is declining distrust in the justice system. Many surveys say that people don't think that our justice system is capable of having uh, outcomes that everyone believe in. And part of this is because our justice system is a two-tiered justice system where certain individuals that have enough means to afford expensive lawyers are given certain treatment, and then individuals who are end up with public defenders who are overworked and stretched thin might experience a completely different experience when it comes through going through the justice system. And that is a two-tiered system where you're being punished not just because of your crime, but because of your economic means. And these people with the less means are much more likely to be convicted in death penalty cases because of their defense. And then we have to look at the racial bias. So when you are a person of color and your victim is white, accused victim is white, you are way more likely to be assigned the death penalty than if you are a white individual in any case. So this is a scenario again where people are not being punished based on their crime. It is based on the color of their skin, and in these scenarios, they're being sentenced to death at a much higher rate, not because of their crime, which is unjust. And another factor that we have with the death penalty is the exorbitant cost that it inflicts on states that have it. It is significantly more expensive than life imprisonment, with the disadvantage of not being able to be reversed if there is new exonerating evidence. So we have a more expensive system through appeals and the special facilities that are needed to do death penalty uh, incarceration and the executions that these funds could be used to support victims of the crime, and they could be used to do more crime prevention rather than very expensive executions that we have also have been proven to not deter crime in any fashion that is um, determinable. States with the death penalty in most cases have higher rates of homicide than states without it. The story that the death penalty deters murder is not accurate. In many cases, these are crimes of passion or crimes of opportunity or involving mental um, issues that would not have been stopped by the person thinking that there was a death penalty. These cases were going to happen regardless, and they still happen despite the fact that these states have the death penalty. So there is no deterrence for having the death penalty in your state. There's still going to be these same crimes. So many many countries have abolished the death penalty because of a lot of these factors. And if it was proven to contribute to less violent crimes, then so many states, I mean, so many countries wouldn't have abolished the death penalty if it actually worked. So over 144 countries have abolished the death penalty according to Amnesty International. And the European Union is have decided that this is uh, not in line with human rights. And another thing about the death penalty that is not that often talked about is the psychological toll on the execution staff and the workers at the prison that have to carry out these punishments. Now, this can be trauma that lasts with these individuals for their entire lives, where their job is to be state sanctioned murderers. And you think about the doctors involved in lethal injection, and they take a Hippocratic oath to do no harm, and they're responsible with executing somebody's life. And because of this fact, European countries have been hesitant to supply the drugs we need to execute people in the United States because they are morally opposed to it. So it's been difficult to get the drugs needed to do lethal injection, and that has led to many botched injections where people haven't died the first time or they've suffered crazy side effects, and the injection execution hasn't gone the way it was supposed to go, and they who knows the type of pain that they've experienced where it is undoubtedly cruel and unusual punishment. So I'm going to show a short video that talks about one particular case in Missouri where an individual was executed against the wishes of a lot of the stakeholders involved in the case.
wishes of the murdered 5-year-old Marcellus Williams over the objections of the local prosecutor and against the wishes of the murdered victim's spouse. Williams was convicted of the 1998 murder of Felicia Gale, who was stabbed more than 40 times in her home in suburban St. Louis. As William Brangham explains, Williams maintained his innocence throughout decades of incarceration.
Jeff, no physical evidence ever linked Marcellus Williams to the crime scene, and there was only one Black person on the jury that convicted him. Earlier this year, the St. Louis County prosecutor filed a motion to overturn the conviction, calling it a, quote, manifest injustice. It cited a lack of credible evidence, ineffective trial counsel, and racial discrimination in jury selection. For more on this case, we are joined by Jonathan Potts. He was Marcellus Williams' lead trial lawyer. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. I know this has got to be an awful day for you all, and I wonder if you could just, how are you doing? How's the defense team doing? How's Mr. Williams' family doing?
Thank you, William. As you can imagine, everyone's devastated right now. It's been a very emotionally draining past 72 hours. There's been a lot of effort and a lot of support to keep Mr. Williams alive, but obviously we failed last night. And when that failure happens, you take it personally and you take it hard.
Do you believe in your heart of hearts that the state executed an innocent man yesterday?
Yes, of course I do. We don't take these cases unless we believe in our clients, and that's why we fought for them for years.
I know that just on Monday, you were even arguing his appeal in front of the state Supreme Court. And one of the things you were arguing about was the DNA that was found on the murder weapon in this case. Can you tell us what was going on there?
Yeah, so years ago, we found DNA on the murder weapon, which was a bloody kitchen knife. And that actually led one of the prior governors in Missouri to halt Mr. Williams' execution back in 2017. It's always been believed by us that that DNA was going to belong to the true killer. And as we were systematically excluding everyone, what we found out is that the DNA on the murder weapon belonged to the original trial prosecutor. And at a hearing last month, the trial prosecutor admitted that he'd been handling the bloody kitchen knife without gloves 5 times before trial, contaminating the evidence.
How do you make...
So that's the video I wanted to show you. This case just happened last year, and the end of last year, Marcellus Williams was executed, and that was against the wishes of the prosecutor's office and the victim's spouse. And there was no physical evidence tying him to this case. So there was a significant amount of reasonable doubt, and this individual was still executed. And that this is not the only case this has been happening, and it's happening still to today. And we don't hear a lot of people talk about the death penalty today. And um, I think that is an issue that needs to be brought back up is do we think in the year 2025 we still should be executing people? Do we trust our government to make these decisions? And is it who we are as a society that we are going to have our government committing murder, even if it is in cases that the crimes are heinous? Is there any reason to continue this if it doesn't deter crime? It's unjust, and it's not doled out in an equal fashion. It's racially biased and changes based on someone's economic status. So, in my opinion, we should end the death penalty tomorrow. Not another person should be executed in this country. Life behind bars is a very severe punishment, and we cannot trust our government to be making these life and death decisions with our citizens. So, thank you for listening to me today talk a little bit about the death penalty, and I appreciate it. Have a good one.